Good evening. Thank you for being here. That thing's got a bigger head than Damon Napier does. And that's going to be the opening page for all of them. I don't know how Carolyn Lewis got this photo, but that's cool. We are in 3 John tonight. We will be looking at Diotrephes. We don't know what church this was sent to. That is not mentioned. But we do have 3 individuals who are mentioned. The first one is the one that the letter is addressed to, and that is pronounced Gaius. That is, I typically have always heard it Gaius, but it is speculated that he is the minister or the preacher at that congregation, and that the other 2 individuals, that is Demetrius and Diotrephes, are elders at that congregation. So you don't know exactly where this congregation was. Most speculate Asia Minor, because all 3 of the names that are given are Greek names. And see, that was your problem, Jeremy. You just don't know Greek.
Amen.
It's all right. I practiced. Why isn't it written to the church? I have a lot of quick facts to go through. I rewrote this sermon around 2 o'clock this morning because there was a lot of stuff I didn't have in the right spot. This is the stuff that was saved because it's extra and it's really cool. So really quickly, John did write a letter to the church first, but Diotrephes intercepted that letter. We're told that in this letter. Since what he wrote to the church was intercepted and not given to the church, the letter was written to the preacher, who apparently is willing to stand up to, or at least knows how to diplomatically maneuver with Diotrephes. There's some really great stuff in this letter. One of those is the idea of testimony or testifying. So it may be written in your Bibles as speaking or something to that effect. But testimony, testifying are written 7 times, but 4 of them are in verse 12. And they talk about what Demetrius does and what people say about Demetrius. And it's kind of, the word testify is not there for all 4 of those, but it has to do, that verse talks about what people say about Demetrius or what Demetrius would say about people. The ESV has listed 7 times the idea of truth. One of those is not outright, it doesn't outright say truth, but it is alluded to in the text. There is a spot where this letter says your truth, but it doesn't mean what the world would say your truth to mean. It is, looking at that in context, what is being said is this is the doctrine that you hold to and you preach as truth. A couple of the great things that we can understand from this letter is even if you have evil elders, as Diotrephes practices wickedness, we'll look at that later. Even if you have wicked or evil elders, you can still serve God and be righteous. We also see that Demetrius was not required or requested to step down from his position of eldership because of his partner elder Diotrephes. Again, this is speculation as to whether they were elders, but it is the scholarly look into these typically allow for these promotions of these individuals. Okay. One of the things that I want to do, because not everybody who's bad is completely bad or rotten all the way through, is what are some redeeming qualities of Diotrephes? And then we will dive into book, chapter, and verse for some of the rest of it. First, he's a Christian. He has to be a Christian because it's alluded to that he is a brother or that he interacts with brethren. And he is an elder, probably an elder. And if he is an elder, then at some point in time, it was thought that he behaved as an elder should, with those qualifications that we see given to Timothy and to Titus, with gentility and soberness, and husband of one wife, and not a novice. These kinds of ideas. Somewhere along the way, he's lost his way. One of the things that I had to completely rewrite this sermon for is because when I got through writing it, I had a lesson about 3 John, which is great, but we're talking about Diotrephes and what makes him a bad guy. First, verse 9. Diotrephes is selfish. When we go to proving the antithesis of these points, they come right out of 3 John as well. We're given the bad and the good or the what you should rather do in the same lesson, same letter. In the 9th verse, it has that Diotrephes likes to put himself first. But in the 5th verse, what is being complimented or what is being urged that brethren do is said as, beloved, it is a faithful thing you do in all your efforts for these brothers, strangers as they are. It is the uplifting or the building up, the things that are done for the brethren who have come in to worship with them or in their area. So what has happened is we would have travelers come in on their way through to somewhere, wherever else. And as they stopped, they would be shown hospitality. That's what we would expect, right? That one of us, or many of us, would step up and offer hospitality. That's what's been done. And in verse 5, that's what's complimented. That we would put others ahead of ourselves. Beloved, it's a faithful thing if you do in all your efforts for those brethren, strangers as they are. They don't even know who they are, but because they bear the name of brother or the fact that they're Christians as well, good hospitality is shown. And Diotrephes is not just not showing good hospitality. Diotrephes puts himself first. What is the greatest command that Jesus says in his ministry? He answers in his ministry. To love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. And then second and likened to it is to love your neighbor as yourself. So in the first 2 of the commandments, the ones that are said to, on these hang all the law and the prophets. Promotion of self isn't in there anywhere. Promotion of self is a big problem. It may be a big problem with some of us. I will be addressing it. I've noticed that preaching about pride is not something that I've done recently or often, and I will be getting back on top of that. Mostly to preach to me, because desiring to put ourselves first is something that we find easy to do. And that we can fall into the rut of doing on accident. We can make excuses for our time, or for our talent, or for our treasure. What extent should we show love to God and then love to our neighbor? We're told that greater love has no one than for someone to lay down his life for his friends. And this is the example that Jesus sets. So Jesus offers himself for all. And what Diotrephes is doing through the Word of God and the gathering of Christians who are open to be putting others ahead of themselves is Diotrephes says, okay, if you're putting somebody else in front of you, I'll walk up there in front of you. That's fine. And takes a preeminent leadership role. The second thing Diotrephes does out of the same verse is that he rejects authority. I have written something to the church, but Diotrephes does not acknowledge our authority. John doesn't speak much about authority in this letter, does he? Take another look real quick. I'll give you a couple. I'll keep talking if you'll take a look. Where does John exercise his authority or say that his authority comes from? There's 5 places in this book, in this little letter. The first one is that in verse 1, John calls himself an elder. In fact, in many translations, the second word is the word elder. The elder, too. Gaius is not, I did it again. Gaius is not, we're not told what Gaius, Demetrius, or Diotrephes' positions are, even though many speculate what they are. But here John, in writing this letter, claims eldership, and that carries some weight. And while we are not subject to the elders of any other congregation, if there are elders who give us opinions, we should appeal to the knowledge that they have in gaining that role and maintaining that role for other brethren. In the third verse, we see that something was reported to him. It's because of the reports that he has received. And there might have been more sharing of local congregations in that time than there is today. But they have reported to John, it would seem. John calls them his children in verse 4. If we are going to take that as Paul states the roles of brotherhood, then John would be one who baptized them, or at least started them in the faith, and is helping to promote them in the faith. In verse 5, he offers judgment. He has an outlook and an opinion on what they are doing. And then at the end of verse 6, he says what should have been done instead of what is, and how that should go. Diotrephes, John doesn't have to beat people over the head with authority. Jesus didn't either. But one of the things that Jesus did, and what I think you can see John doing in this letter, is he speaks as one with authority. That's what they recognized in Jesus. And as this letter is written, it doesn't sound like any letter we might write. How dare we to have authority over another congregation or other individuals in other congregations? That's just wrong. And yet by the Spirit, John is able not only to offer this kind of advice, but to do it from a place that we can see the Spirit and the will of God behind what he is saying, empowering it. In verse 10, Diotrephes speaks wickedness. So our first point is that he makes himself preeminent, which is selfish or pride. And the second, he rejects the authority of the Spirit of God. And the third one here is that he talks nonsense. I opened up my file of funny verses, and I filed this in with the funny verses that I found in the Bible. Jeremy, this is the pioneering of biblical smack talk. That's where they made it for us. It's biblical smack talk. It's also wrong. It is really wrong in what's being done. And that Diotrephes is speaking out against the authority of the apostles, but he's doing so as one with authority to do so. Meaning, not only has he put himself first, but he has put everyone else in subjection under him. If they're not paying attention, if they're not careful, it is dangerous to say that you know more. There's televangelists that have said things in the past like, well, the apostles got it wrong. There are others who would teach apostolic successorship. That's close to the right term. The Roman Catholic Church holds. It's also a claim that the Eastern Orthodox Church holds. But in verse 6, we see what John has praised about these individuals is that they have had their love testified to. You know of a good congregation? What is it that they do that's good? And I'm not saying that we have to know of that. And we might not know of something that someone does really well or a congregation that does something specifically really well, but we might know of sound congregations. You know, within about 4 miles of our building, 5 miles of our building here, there are 3 other places that call themselves the Church of Christ. One of them is Clover Street. One of them, I don't know what the name of it is, but it's the one that you pass on the bypass with great big white words on their red brick. And there's another one up the road here. Can you say which one of them has sound doctrine, or do any of them? There's 4 of them if you include us. Which one gets it right? I appreciate you being here tonight. I hope that is a vote of confidence in favor of the one who brings you lessons. And I hope I get them right for you. The brethren and these traveling brethren know what to say, where righteousness is practiced. And what Diotrephes says, whatever that is, specifically that he says, it's the mindset behind it is that he is more important and what he says goes. Most preachers get accused of this because they're the ones that get paid to run their mouth. And we have to understand that. I hope that we would understand that as you pay for my opinion kind of an idea. Not to be haughty, and I don't mean it in a prideful way. But somebody has to say what's right. And sometimes sometimes one just draws a blank with the book, chapter, and verse. Diotrephes never draws a blank. He always points to himself. And John says, if you're never going to draw a blank, the thing that you should do is to speak out of your love. And these people have come back to John and said they love. The folks there are really good. They may also give a report of Diotrephes. But what John praises in this letter is that they testify about that congregation's love, except Diotrephes. He's not doing it right. He speaks wicked nonsense. The last one is that Diotrephes refuses to fellowship, and he does not show hospitality. And this one has got a little tweak on the end of it, a little half point. So let me get through it, and then we'll do that. In verse 10, we read that Diotrephes refuses to welcome the brothers. He also stops those who want to welcome him and put them out of the church. Not only are you not allowed to have good doctrine, you're not allowed to speak good doctrine. And in verses 6 and 7, we see John encouraging those Christians to send them on their journey in a manner worthy of God. For they have gone out for the sake of the name, accepting nothing from the Gentiles. And I believe, Jeremy, did you have something different there than for the sake of the name in verse 7?
It says namesake.
Namesake. Okay. Good. So the refusal to show hospitality versus actually showing hospitality. And then there's a little tweak right on the end, that little extra effort that Diotrephes stops people from doing something. And there are things that you can plan on doing in church. There are things that you can go to the men's meeting, or that you can go to the elders meeting to change the way something is done at church. But to actually forcibly have someone not there, that's a lot extra, isn't it? I've only seen that one time where somebody was thrown out of the church building. I may or may not have had a part in that. But this is what Diotrephes is doing. Can you imagine leading a campaign against righteousness? And when John is encouraging the brethren to take care of other brethren, he says that they have gone out for the sake of the name, or for the name's sake of Christ, accepting nothing from the Gentiles. They are trying to not cause anyone, or not give anyone the reason to stumble over them. Paul uses a lot more words than this when he talks about taking money from certain congregations and not taking money from others. So that little extra, not only in showing hospitality, but making sure that hospitality is shown, especially for those who really don't want to put you out. Can we do anything for you? I really don't want to trouble you. I can do for me. It is a bother, but I won't tell you that. Okay, well, we'll force it upon you. Melanie went somewhere, probably one of her trips to help the Tallahassee Council of the Blind. And the boys and I were at home, and I had already burned squirrel and dumplings. And in that name on the menu itself, you can know that Melanie had no part of it. I'd already burned that this week. And then at some point, I got a text message says, "Are you at home?" "Yes, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Roger showed up with about 3 gallons of potato soup from Mamaw, not from Roger. And we sent it back with a sticky note in the bottom that says, "Please refill." We didn't have a choice. It was, "Hey, I'm going to show up and I'm going to leave this here, and you can either let ants get it on the front porch or you can take it inside and eat it." We took it inside and ate it. All of it. Hospitality that is offered, that you just cannot refuse that hospitality. You have other brethren here who, when the garden is nice, they fill up the back area with all kinds of vegetables and produce out of the garden. And that's wonderful. You got to take it home or the whole building will get fruit flies. But Diotrephes does not allow these kinds of things to happen. We're told that Diotrephes likes to put himself first. We're told that Diotrephes rejects the authority of the apostles, authority that they have received from Christ. We're told that Diotrephes speaks evil against the word or the name or those who come in the name of Christ. Putting himself first, again, seems to be the item on the agenda for him. We see that Diotrephes refuses fellowship and doesn't allow other people to offer fellowship and would put people out of the church. And at the end of the letter, we have those do this, not that, side by side in verses 11 and 12. 11 is all about imitation, and then Demetrius, what Demetrius has done, that again is assumed to be the other elder of the congregation. And if they're not elders, that's fine. You have a stark difference between the way one man acts and the way an opposite or a good or a godly man acts. Starting in verse 11, "Beloved, do not imitate evil, but imitate good. Whoever does good is from God. Whoever does evil has not seen God. Demetrius has received a good testimony from everyone and from the truth itself. We also add our testimony, that you know that our testimony is true." Diotrephes' main problem is that he likes to put himself first. He thinks he can do more, be more, say more, or have more authority than anyone else in the congregation. It's a dangerous place to put ourselves in. And as we hope to love and to stir one another up to love and good works, we have to always check ourselves to make sure that what we're doing does come from a good place. That we are not mandating or offering ultimatums of you will do this or I will retaliate in whatever way. I hope that we have learned this from Diotrephes, and there's a lot of other really cool people that we can learn from their mistakes. If God is going to have their mistakes available to us, we should learn from them. Make sure that we are putting others before self is a great lesson to have learned from Diotrephes.